What's up, YouTube? Bill's here, and in this episode of our platformer series, we are going to expand on our platformer's ability by adding in interaction with objects. So we've got this new little box right here, and if we hit the climb button, we can see that our player grabs this box and picks it up. We change the sprite, we can run with it, we can jump with it, we can even bounce with it. If we start to wall climb, we drop that box, we can pick it back up. We can pick it back up, and then we can go around and we can throw it. And it also interacts with other objects in the world, such as this spring, and might be caught in an infinite loop. But today we're going to go over how to implement all of this, so let's get into development. What we're going to do is we're going to create a class called Carryable. And by class I mean a scene. So this scene will be called Carryable, and any object that we want to be able to carry, like our crate, is going to be of type Carryable. And Carryable is going to have kind of some core functionality in it that all carryable objects will need, such as like throw velocity. So if we want to be able to throw it, we'll have the throw velocity. The carry position, so this is the position of where it's carried above the player. And then, like we're also going to pass in a gravity variable, because as interactable objects that fall, they will have a gravity. And then we'll also put a basic little state machine in them. We're not going to use a node-based state machine. We'll use enums. And, we'll have a few different states. So one is like dropped. So if the player's dropped it, how does it interact? If it's being carried, how does it interact? And then the other ones we have are pick-upable, which is totally a real word. And then the last one is launched. So like if it launches, or if it lands on the spring and launches. So these are kind of the states that we'll have, and these are kind of some of the variables. And then with that, we'll be able to have this object, and you can expand it to future objects that the player can interact with. So you can pick up a crate, run around with it, throw it, all of that. So that's that state. And then the player, we're going to have to add functionality for that. So player gets functionality to interact with that object. And then we also need to update animations. And there's a clever way that we're going to do this to kind of minimize the work we have to do. There's kind of two ways you can approach this. You can either have an entirely new sprite sheet where you have your arms up for the animations, or you can split them into like the body and legs and head of the player, and then the arms are their own separate animation. Either way, you're kind of going to need two sprite sheets. We're just going to keep it in one, like we're going to use two different sprite sheets, but not two different sprite nodes, because with the secondary sprite node, you have to create a whole bunch of animations, and then anywhere you call an animation, you have to add in another call to update the player's arms as well as their body. So we're going to approach it slightly differently to make the work on our end a little easier. But yeah, so that's everything that we're going to kind of go over today in this video. It might be a little bit longer, but let's go ahead and get started with the coding. So we have our character right here, and I've already imported the new sprite sheet. So the new sprite sheet, I'll show it to you in sprite real quick. What it is I literally just took all the current sprites, added in a gap area right here, and then just added in the sprites with the hands up. And then I left in all of the climbing sprites because the player can't interact with these objects while they're climbing. But I figured, if we want to expand that in the future, we'll just leave that in there. But yeah, I've just, updated this right here with the hands. The itch page currently does not have these animations. I totally forgot to do those when I updated the itch page. So once I upload this video, I'm going to update the itch page so that the starter kit and everything will indeed have these animations. And I changed the code slightly to implement these, so that'll all be updated with the video release as well. Don't need to save any of that. Once we come in here to the player's animation, we're going to increase the vertical frames to 29. So it's 14 before, 14, add 14 for the new one, and then 1 for that little like separator, so that's 29. And then, now that we have that, we can go into our animations. And we're going to do some editing real quick to these. So we're going to go Animation, Manage Animations. And this shows all of the current animations. And we're going to go through and we're going to copy and then paste fall. And we're just going to add the word carry afterwards. We're going to do that for idle. We do that for jump. Don't need to do it for any of the climbing states, so we'll go down to run. And then the rest of these are climbing states. So now we have carry after all of those. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to your fall carry. We're going to get rid of that. So we're going to delete this old one. We're going to go to our sprite. And then I've got the numbers pulled up in my project that I've already implemented. So I know that that's at frame 160. Oh, this is doing something funky. So let's move that in. Oops. There we go. Perfect. So that's the fall carry. Arms are up. Now we're going to go to idle carry. This is an animation. So let's get rid of all of these frames. And we're going to add them back in. So this starts at frame 128. So we'll go to my sprite, frame 128, enter, perfect. Add all these in, get rid of that blank one, and then spread these out. I think we had them at every 0.1 second. Now for this one, there's one more thing we're going to have to do. And that is up here first at the player, we're going to add a child node called node 2D. I'm going to bring it all the way up to the top. Right here, call it interaction. And then we're going to create like an interactor area around the player in a second. But what we need to do while we're doing these animations is we're going to add in a marker 2D and call it carry position. So this is the actual marker that says, hey, this is where the player carries an object, and this is at y-8, so it sits like right on the player's head right there. Now that's important because in the idle animation, the player moves. So see how their head bounces down? So we want to convey that animation. To do that, we have to animate the position of this marker. So if we come down here and we animate it, boom, we have a position right there at -8. And then I'm just going to copy that. And we're going to kind of go through here. We're going to paste it. We're going to paste it. Boom. And I'm going to paste it right here. Lock it there. Paste it here. Lock it there. And we're just going to add one keyframe for each of these frames. And then for safeguarding at the very end, we're going to add one just so we always set it back to the original position so it doesn't like get out of order. And then we just follow this. So we're here, and then right here we dip down 1, right? So we're going to do -7. But now watch this. See how the marker is slowly moving right there? We don't want that. We want it to snap with the player. So we do that right here. So this is how, the transitions work. Is it continuous, meaning, it's moving by like 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Is it discrete, meaning it's just like at 0.8 and all of a sudden it's at 0.7. And then capture, I'm actually not really sure what that is. I haven't used it, but discrete is what we want. And discrete is how you get the snappy motion. See? Boom, boom, snaps down. Perfect. So then this will stay down. Oh, and then we drop down one more right here, it looks. So that's probably to go to -6, right? And then we back up. Something doesn't look quite right there, does it? Oh, that's why, because this needs, so this is 0.7. This needs to be -7 as well. This one needs to be -7. Yeah, because those need to be the same. And then we go to 8. There we go. That follows the animation. Perfect. So that's idle carry done. Now we got a jump carry. And this starts at frame 152. Perfect. So, actually, wait, can I just... Oh my goodness, I'm a genius. That literally did not occur to me to manually edit them like that. That makes our job way easier, doesn't it, right? So now we're carrying. Perfect. No changes to carry position. And then we come down to run carry. Awesome. So now run carry starts at frame 136. And then, 137, 138, 139, 140. So I had to make sure I was still recording all this. 141, 142, 143. Perfect. Nice. So now we need to animate the carry position. So we come here, come all the way back to the beginning. Yep, perfect, nailed it. And then same thing, we'll just copy, paste, and I'm just going to set this to 0.1, just to make our lives easier. Paste, 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 and then 1 at the end just for safekeeping. And so these positions are as follows. It's 0.9, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. So this first one's actually going to be at, sorry, I keep saying -9, -8, -8, -8. And then we're going to go -10, -9, and then back to -8. So at 0.4, this one's going to be -10. And then this one's going to be -9. And then -8. Yep, and that's on continuous, switch to discrete, and boom. There we go. Now it's snapping. Just how we want it. Perfect. So that's all the animation done with that. I'm going to close these dynamic cameras because we don't need them. World will keep open along with player. Awesome. Okay, we'll keep that open. Have I updated this? No, I have not updated that. So let me drag in the new tiles. Yep. Okay, so now we can see that crate right there. Perfect. We've got that. And that should be everything asset-wise that we need. So now, scroll down to World, and we're going to create a new folder called Interactive Objects. And we're going to create all the code for the objects first, and then we'll add all the functionality to the player. And then, because we might create more in the future just for organization, I'm going to write carryable. So these are objects that the player can carry because we might have different interactions. And then right here, I'm going to write crate. Perfect. And then we're going to create a new scene, not in crate, in carryable. So not in crate, in carryable. And we're going to call it carryable object. So this is kind of that parent I was talking about. And it's going to be of type character body 2D. Now, why character body 2D? Character body 2D because we want it to have the physics of like our character so it can move and interact with other solid objects. But then that's kind of all the functionality we need. And then we're going to attach a script to it and call this carryable object. And we're going to do some work in here. So first off, class name, carryable object, extends character body 2D. Perfect. So now carrier player controller. I can't type. Also, just so people know, like I'm relatively new to Godot. I've only been using it for 6-8 months, so I'm still learning a whole bunch of new stuff about it. And I just finally figured this out the other day. So like, I'll show you real quick. Sorry, this is totally an aside, but it's really important. So notice how like when we're in idle state and I say like player dot, nothing shows up. I finally figured out why that is. And that is because if we go to states, nope, where's player state? We want player state, which I think is closed. So let me open up the player state script. We did not type this. So states, I don't think we made that a class. We'll leave that out. But player, now if we put in player controller, we're telling Godot what type this is, and this is always like, this is faster for memory, but if I save this now and go to any state, watch this, player dot, I now have access to all the player's functions and variables, instead of just having to like freehand it. So that's why you type your variables. And in this project, we honestly, like, I haven't been extremely good about typing variables. I mean, none of these are typed. In my actual like project where I'm developing it, they are typed, but from now on I'm going to type everything. And I think the download projects, because I usually, well, actually this one's going to download this one. Maybe I'll go through and just type everything before I upload it. But you should type your variables. It makes the game run faster, and it gives you access to kind of all those functions. Anyways, I digress for something important and cool. So throw velocity, and that is a vector 2. And then we're going to have carry position, also a vector 2. And then we're going to have gravity. And this gravity is going to be a little bit different than some of the other gravities we may use. So we're just going to set it right here. And I know, yeah, we didn't use a vector 2 in our player. You don't have to, but I've just gotten in the habit of using vectors more often, so I'm using vector 2s here. And then we're going to have our enum for player states. Remember, an enum, if you don't know what it is literally, it stands for enumeration. And it's literally just, we're essentially defining variables in an ordered way with a name. So it starts at 0 and then 1, 2, 3. So it's basically integers. These are basically integers, but now we can say like states.dropped and it just returns 0, or states.carry returns 2. So it's useful for like simple state machines, which we're doing right now. And I can also say now state is of type states, this enum. So I know that this has to be one of these values, and I can just use the name like states dot, or the state equals states dot dropped. Okay, now let's write our physics process function. There's nothing we need to do in ready, because ready will be handled by the parent object or the child objects. We'll put some stuff in there. So now we're going to say if carrier. So if the player is carrying it, we're going to say carry position is equal to carrier dot carry position, which is going to give us an error because that does not exist yet, but that's okay. We'll add it later. And then we need our move and slide function. And then in between these, we're going to add a match statement for our state. And so now this is why I like using enums for basic state machines, because match can sometimes be picky. But now we can, these are technically integers we're passing through, but they're named. So and looking at the code, it looks like we may not even use the pick upable state. So maybe we just get rid of that. These are all going to give us errors because there's no code here. If we were to write pass, then it'll stop screaming at us. See? All right, so state carry. All we care about in this state is that the global position is equal to our carry position, right? We just want to update it to wherever the carry position is, and the carry position is constantly being updated to the player's carry position, which is that marker 2D that we were just animating. Yeah, it doesn't like that because that's not how you spell global. So now in the dropped state, we're going to say velocity.y plus equals gravity.y times delta, not plus, times delta. Perfect. So we just add the gravity to drop the whatever object is to the floor. And then we say if is on floor, we're going to say velocity equals vector2 dot 0. So just nullify all velocity and transition to the dot pickupable. Okay, so we do use pickupable, but I think pickupable is just we just default it to down here. And in pickupable, I love saying that word. We literally all we're going to do is just set the velocity equal to 0. Just like don't do anything, just sit on the floor. And then in launched, we're also going to have this right here. So we're going to add gravity because it's been launched and we want it to return to the ground. And then we say if the velocity.y is greater than or equal to 0. So remember, negative y is up, so greater than or equal to 0 means we've hit the peak of our bounce or launch, and now we need to fall. We just are going to set this to states.dropped. States.dropped, which will put us here, add gravity, and then if we hit the floor, go back to pickupable. Alrighty, and that is literally all the code we need in our parent carryable object. Don't worry about this warning. We're not going to add a collision shape here. We'll add it in the actual box. So now in our crate, close that down. Now in our crate, we can create a new scene called wood crate. And it is not a character body 2D. So now in here we can go here, we can type in carryable object. So now carryable object is under character body 2D, so like it technically still is a character body 2D, but now it's going to inherit all of the properties of the carryable object. And interesting, hold on, I'm gonna do a quick Google. I'm just gonna see if there's a way to add a description down here. I've actually never looked into this. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pause the recording real quick. Alrighty, we're gonna forget that just because it looked like there's gonna be more reading than I anticipated for now. So maybe if I figure that out, I'll throw it into the next video. Alrighty, so we have created our wood crate. So we're going to add to it a sprite 2D because we need to see what on earth we're working with, right? Then we're going to add a collision shape 2D because it needs to interact with the world. And then we're going to add an area 2D. And under that, we're going to add a collision shape 2D. So the sprite, we're going to use an atlas texture. Remember that an atlas texture lets us, crop a little bit of a texture and use that. So we drag in all of our world resources, come down to edit region, pixel snap, zoom in, and boom. There's our box, done there. For collision shape, we're going to do a rectangle shape. So let's zoom in our box and drag it to our box margins. Perfect. And then we're going to add for our collision shape under the area, it's also going to be a rectangle shape. We're going to make it one wider. Whoops. Oh no, we're on the half pixel. That's okay, it'll fix itself. Make it one wider, and then I generally color this some kind of orange. In my test project, it's this orange, and I like it, so I'm going to use it. So what are these? Sprite, we know what that is. Collision shape, the physics box for the crate because it's a character body 2D, an area 2D, and then the collision shape 2D for that area. This area 2D will be our interaction area. So now we're going to extend this script. So I call this wood crate. So extending means that we're going to expand on the previous properties of a carryable object. So class name wood crate extends carryable object. Perfect. And then we're going to set an on ready. I'm actually just going to click and drag this in for that and call it interaction area. And then a ready function. Oh, come on, Godot, give me the default one so I can tab it. Nope. There we go. We're going to say state equals states.dropped because we just want it to fall to the ground. And then we're going to set throw velocity to equal a vector 2. So and it's going to be 150, negative 150. So those are just numbers I played around with and liked. You can change them to whatever you like. But yeah, nice and simple. And so that's everything for our wood crate. So the remainder of the project, or at least the bulk of it, is going to take place in our character script. So let's head on over to that and start working on adding in all that functionality to the character. Alrighty. So here we are in the player controller. And so we need to add two things. We add this interaction area, right, to the player. So now we need to add an area 2D. Call it interactor. And then that obviously needs a collision shape. Where is it? It's right there. Okay, so that's centered. We're gonna make it kind of orange too. Do I still have that orange? Yes, I do. Perfect. And we're gonna make it like that. And so the interactor, I'm going to make a little bit taller than the player and a little bit wider than the player's foot base. Like that. That should be good. That should be good. Okay. And then right here, we're going to bring in two on readies. So the interactor and then the carry position marker. And then all the way down at the end of our variables, we're going to add two variables. So carry position is a vector 2. And then carrying object carryable. So now we're making this of type carryable. Okay, so it's not finding that. So let's make sure we do indeed have that. So that comes from the carryable object. Oh, probably because we made this class name carryable object. I'm going to make it class name carryable. That'll work. Perfect. We don't need anything in the ready function. What we're actually going to do is we're just going to, so there's a loop functions, player physics functions. Right here before that, we're going to add a new region called interaction. And this is where we're going to put all that functionality to allow our player to interact with our interactable objects. So first function we're going to create is called function handle pickup objects. So first and foremost, we're going to say if carrying object. So we are carrying something. We're going to say if key climb pressed. Now this is probably going to throw an error because I forgot that we added that in. So let's add that in real quick. So we come up to our inputs. Key climb. Add press to the end of that. Don't need these functions. Don't need the graphics functions. Get input states, yes. And then we say key climb pressed equals input dot is action just pressed climb. Need that. Okay, back to here. So carrying object dot state is equal to carrying object dot states dot drops. So first thing we're doing is we're saying, hey, if we're already carrying an object, see if we press, the pickup button, and if so, essentially drop the object. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the throw velocity. And I am on caps lock, but too lazy to change that. So if that bothers your OCD, then I am sorry. So vector2.0. That's probably why that's not showing up. So we're saying, so if this is checking if the player velocity is 0, meaning the player is not moving, then the carrying object dot velocity is going to equal carrying object dot throw velocity times a vector 2 of the player facing direction, and then y is 1 because we don't want to change the y, and that'll just flip the sign of which direction it's throwing based on which way the player is facing. Else, meaning we are moving, we're going to say carrying object dot velocity is equal to velocity times, now I'm going to put a magic number in here. Magic number is a term that means it's just a number. We don't know what it is. Most numbers are associated to variables. This is just a random magic number. Good code practice is that you should never have magic numbers in your code, and I just forgot to put that in as an actual value. But that's just, you could call it, whatever you want. You could call it sorry, let me finish typing this out and we'll talk about that. You could literally call it whatever you want. So like, we can literally just be like var throw factor. And we'll cast that to a float. Type it. But yeah, you should never have magic numbers. Now, like something like 1, that makes sense because we're multiplying, and by 1 means just don't change that value. That makes sense. So carrying object dot carrier equals null, and carrying object equals null. So we throw the object. If we're standing, actually, I'll be nice to everybody here. So if the player's standing still, throw it in the direction the player's facing. And then if we're moving, this is the same as this. What we're doing is we're just taking the player's velocity and adding a little to it so you can like throw it a little further. Because otherwise, like you'll throw it, you like run under it because you're not adding on your velocity to the throwing velocity. But if we add the player's full velocity to the throwing velocity, you'll chuck the box super far. So 0.25 was just a number I came up with some testing that looked like a decent throw while still moving, So that's what I did. Alrighty. Else. So this handles, are we already carrying something? If not, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say variable bodies. All of the dead bodies we have hit. No, I'm just kidding. All of the colliding bodies get overlapping. No, we want bodies, not areas. Perfect. So we're going to store all of the bodies that the interactor, our player's interactor, which is this area 2D, is overlapping. And we're going to say if bodies.size is greater than 0, so like we check that, yeah, we actually are on bodies. Now we say for body in bodies. Now we're looping through all of the bodies, and we're going to check them all. That is the wrong punctuation. There we go. Now we say if body is carryable, so is it a carryable body, and body.state is equal to body.states.pickupable. Love that I invented that word. Does that work? Oh, that works. Cool. Okay. Oh, let's go. I think that gives me access to those now. Okay. Anyways, I digress. So, are we interacting? Are there bodies we're overlapping? Is it something we can carry? Or loop through them all? Is it something we can carry, and is it in its pickup state? If so, now we check the grab key, which is key climb pressed, because we don't want to interact with grabbing. Now we set carrying object equal to the body, and then we say body.carrier equals self. Oh, just self. Perfect. Body.global position is equal to the carry position. Carry position. Perfect. And we say body.state equals body.states.carry. Okay, so that didn't give me the casting I was wanting. We'll throw it right there. See if that does anything. Hold on, I'm gonna retype this. Nope, that doesn't seem to do anything. I think it actually did more up there, so we'll leave it up there, but it may not even do what we want. Okay, so we pick it up. So we say the player's body that's carrying is this body. We say that the body's carrier is the player. We set the position to the carry position, and we change the state. Perfect. All right, the next function we need is drop carried object. And we say if carrying object, and we basically just, act like we're dropping it. So we'll set the carrying object's velocity equal to vector2.0 because we're essentially just dropping it. We'll set the carrying object dot state equal to carrying object dot states dot love it, dropped. We'll set the carrying object dot carrier to null because we don't want it to follow the player, and then we'll set the actual carrying object equal to null because we don't want the player to interact or try to interact with something it no longer is carrying. Alrighty, and then the last function that we are going to do is down here in graphics functions. We'll put this at the bottom. we're going to put the function get carry sprite. So remember how we didn't, oh, this is going to return a string. So remember how we didn't change the sprite, we just added the name carry to the end of the animations. So what we're basically going to do is we're going to say if the player is carrying an object, we're going to say return carry, else return an empty string. Perfect. So if we're carrying something, then we're going to return carry, and if we're not carrying anything, we're not going to return anything. So the way that's going to work is if we go into all the player states. So let's loop through all the player states. We go to idle. Perfect. And we need to add in handle pickup objects. And then we're also going to add this right here. So the sprite is idle. And we're going to add player.getCarrySprite. So basically, if we're carrying, it's going to return play animation idle carry. And if we're not carrying an object, it's just going to return idle because this will be blank. So do you see how, depending on the state of carrying, it's either going to play the idle or the idle carry animation? So we're just kind of being clever about how we do this so that we can, minimize all the work we have to do trying to change 100 different sprites and everything. So now we just go through run state, handle pickup objects, and then the same thing. We add this little function right here to get the proper animation. Jump sprite will need that too. Or sorry, jump state. So we go jump, handle pickup objects needs to go in here, and then we'll add in the get can carry sprite. Jump peak, we'll add it as well. I can't remember because I don't really use the jump peak state. I just put it in here because some people might want to use it. So we'll add that there as well, even though it just returns, the jump. And then fall. Our fall state needs that. Okay. Let me check the player state real quick. Because we do need to actually update something here in the player physics process, game loop functions, draw under moving platform. We just need to update the carry position. And if I remember correctly, I don't think drop carried object, the player doesn't directly use, but it's used in other states, I believe. So like if I go to like the wall jump state, no, because wall jump will allow wall jumping, but like wall grab, yeah, so we need to go through these. So wall grab, I put it in update in my my project where I'm like building all these functionalities. I'm actually going to put it right here though, and if that doesn't work, then we can just move it to the update or the update function, but it should work there. So now we need to go through all these. So wall jump, we can use it. Wall grab, we can't. Wall climb, we can't. So enter state, drop the object. Wall slide, we can't. Ledge grab, we can't. And ledge climb, we can't grab. So we have to drop the objects. Okay. That should be most things to get everything working. I'm sure something's broken, which we'll figure out as soon as we run it. The last thing we need to do is we're going to go to our bouncing platform, open up that script, and we're going to add some code to the on body entered. It'll be really simple. Very, very simple code. We say if body is carryable, we're just going to add some code here for that. So we're going to say if animator dot current animation equals normal, because we don't want to launch unless it's normal. And then we're going to say animator.play launch. Play the launch animation. We're going to say body.velocity is equal to vector2 sine body.velocity.x body.velocity.x times 10 magic number body.throw velocity.y times 2. So what is this doing? We're basically just setting the x velocity when it lands on a spring to whatever, to continue in the direction that it was thrown in. So if it's moving left, it was thrown left, it's moving left. We're just kind of dampening it. And then we're just doubling the normal throw velocity to bounce it. The reason I'm doing this, dampening it, and you can play with this, actually let's just create the variable real quick. Var x dampen. This is a float. I can't type right now. We're checking x dampened. Yeah, so it's just 10 times whatever direction it is, and that way it's like if we throw it, it doesn't just eternally get stuck on here. It should eventually bounce off. Let's actually make this like 15, or I'm gonna make it 20, because why not? And then last thing we do is we say body dot state equals body dot states, capital S, states, yep, dot launched. And that's why we made the launch state. I tried making it work with like the normal like drop state, and it just would not work for the life of me. So I was like, whatever, I'll just make a launch state. It takes like 4 more lines of code. It's no biggie. So, alrighty, that should be just about everything we need. So if I grab a wood crate and instantiate it, and then we run the game, we get an immediate error. Extends carryable, not a carryable object. Perfect. Trying to assign. Okay, so yeah, so that's gonna not work. So we'll get rid of that. Perfect. All right, we have our player, we have our interactor. We come over to the body. We immediately crash. Perfect. That's a capital S. Ah, yes. Okay, so the player cannot run through it. Can we pick it up? Yes, we can, but see how... Okay, so this is the other thing that I forgot we need to do. Because this is a character body 2D and this is a character body 2D, this is technically pushing gravity down on this and like trapping our player. Hence, we are stuck. But now we can move because now we're not clipped into the ground, but we can't jump because there's an object above us and we can't use the spring. So, what we need to do is we need to mess with... collision layers, which I don't think we've talked about collision layers, so we'll talk about those now. So every collidable object, if we go into collision, we have these layers and masks. So if we read these, it says the physics layer this collider object is in, and then the mask is the physics layers this collision object scans. So the layer is where we are. The player is in layer 1, and the player currently scans layer 1. Okay? So we're going to move the player to layer 2, and that yes, the player can reside in multiple, and you have up to 32. But we're going to have the player live into and interact with 1. Okay. The world tiles. We're going to go to the world tiles. So we go world tiles. Sorry, I'm just checking my project navigation. Okay, so those aren't physics layers here. I don't think we need to worry about that. But we are going to go to wood crate, open that up, and we're going to go to collision. Nope, collision object 2D collision, not that collision. Or maybe it's in carryable object that we changed it. Yeah, so we're going to go to carryable object actually. So this needs to live in layer 5, collide with layer 1. So live in 5, check for 1. And then the player's area 2D needs to be in 2. So we're going to be in, so this is 2, but that's 5. Why? Because 5 is going to be our interaction layer. So the area 2D and the collision object that we're trying to collide with need to be in the same like layer and mask combo. So now, interesting, we still can't run through that. Can I pick it up? But now we can't pick it up. So what did we do wrong here with these? We did something wrong. So the player is in 2 and is scanning 1. The interactor is in 2, scanning 5. Carryable object is in 5, scanning 1. Let's check wood crate just to make sure that we got that right, because that might be... Yeah, wood crate should be 5 and 1 as well. Okay, now let's see if this works, because it was in 1 and the player was scanning 1. Okay, yep, there we go. Now we can walk through it. We don't interact with it. We can pick it up. We can jump now. Perfect. We can run. We can jump. If we try to climb something, we drop it right there on the edge. Also, that moving platform is gone. Oh, I think I deleted them all because they were glitched for something. Anyways, okay. So now we can throw it. Perfect. We can throw it onto this, and it's not working. And I know exactly why. Because we have not adjusted the bouncing platform collision layers. So the bouncing platform, let's open that up, is going to be in 1, but it's going to scan 1, 2, and 5. It's going to scan the world, the player, and the interactions. So now we should be able to throw that on there. Perfect. And it bounces off. Yeah, so see how it kept that sideways momentum? And that way, you know, it only bounces once. Oh, missed it. Up, and now see it. Now the player can jump with it. So now we can jump and throw, jump and throw. Oh, I can't throw in the air. So that should be relatively easy if we want to add that in. So let's go player, jump. We do have handle pickup objects. Does fall have handle pickup objects? No, it does not. So if we add that, now we should be able to throw because we'll be at like the peak. Pick that up, jump. Oh. Jump, throw. There we go. Now we can throw objects. Eee. And there we have it. We have interactable objects that we can run around with. We can grab them, we can throw them. You can see how the object, it moves up and down with the player at the animations. Nice and smooth, we can throw it. And yeah, it interacts with our world here. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you for your patience, as it did take a while to get out. I'm planning on releasing 1 video a month, depending on how much free time I have as I deal with life stuff. I might try to release, you know, more, but 1 per month is like the bare minimum I'm going to try to do moving forward. Got some big plans for the channel. Even though I haven't released a video in a while, I'm still working on plenty of things behind the scenes that I can't announce yet, but I'm very excited about them. So if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, comment. It helps push these videos to other aspiring game developers, and it helps boost our channel. And so please leave a like, please subscribe, please comment, send these videos to your friends, and I will see you all in the next one.